All right, it is the Chunk Podcast, and we are in Week 9 of the NFL, and I guess technically this is basically the halfway point of the regular season. And like JJ, you said, you went back and checked our preseason podcast predictions. Once we get Lynch back on this podcast, we will be hitting those and seeing how we're doing about midway through the season. And obviously we'll recap it towards the end of the season too, but right now I know one thing that we're all pretty consistent with is the Jaguars have kind of disappointed a little bit. But anyway, it's JJ, Justin on the podcast right now, and we're hitting Week 9 in the NFL. What's going on with you, man? Anything crazy?
Not much. Reviewing our Way Too Early Predictions podcast. In some ways, we look like geniuses, and in other ways, really embarrassing bold predictions. You know, maybe people expecting a certain New York football team to maybe snag a wild card spot when they absolutely don't deserve it. But
Jets.
We'll have to revisit that in the next week or so.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to go back on those and change all of my predictions. But it's going to be fun. I'm excited to see where we were halfway through the season. I think some of the teams, I think a lot of the teams are who we thought they were, and some of them are shocking us. But I'll definitely do the recap there. But right now we're looking forward to Week 9. But before we get to Week 9, we want to dip into the interwebs mailbag from the Chunkers. They dished out a few questions for us that we wanted to hit before we get into Week 9. And over on our Facebook page, my man David has the question he says the Chiefs and Rams face off on November 19th. He said he's super stoked for that game. It's going to be two powerhouse offenses going head to head. He wants to know how we think that game is going to go. And if we had to put a number on how many total points are going to be scored, what would you say during that game? I mean, obviously, that's probably going to be top 3 games of the year, most anticipated, the way that those two teams have been absolutely crushing it. And honestly, the Rams defense they just traded for Dante Fowler, by the way, at trade deadline. They're going to get better, but their offense is so high-powered, it's almost like their defense is just kind of like going with the flow. They're getting lit up pretty good on the defensive side of the ball, too.
Yeah, the Rams have been playing to the competition, but as any true competitive football team does, they've come out on top with a lot of these close games. You know, they beat your Packers last week by 2 points.
Thanks, Ty Montgomery.
Good old Ty Montgomery, the red coat over there. They beat the Broncos a few weeks ago only by 3 points. The Seahawks the week before that by 2 points. So they've played these tougher teams and have stayed ahead of them. I think probably it's not going to be more than 60 points scored between the Chiefs and the Rams.
I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if it was 41 to 45, 44. I don't even know. Some crazy number.
I mean, that definitely seems to be the way of the NFL. You see these teams rising to the top that say, oh, well, screw it. Who needs defense when we can put up 40 points?
Yeah.
And dare the other team to keep up. That's why, they're talking about Rams and Chiefs, but the Rams-Saints game this week is going to be really interesting, and we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
I think ultimately probably the Rams will come out on top between the Chiefs and the Rams. I think their defense is just a little bit better. But
yeah, well, to be fair, the Chiefs have a lot of players coming back from injury on their defense, the defensive side of the ball. They're going to be a lot better defensive team as the season progresses, which is not normally the case for teams that are this good on offense. But yeah, come playoff time, they're going to be legit, and this could be potentially a Super Bowl matchup. I think the Chiefs have the offensive ability to do that. So
I thought for sure the Chiefs or the Patriots were going to trade for Patrick Peterson, but it did not materialize.
Yeah, I would love to see Patrick Peterson on a better football team. I feel so bad for actually everybody on that Cardinals team. And oh my gosh, that Rosen dude, oh my God, he's so bad. Anyway, he's like a deer in headlights every time I see him. But he is obviously a rookie, and he probably maybe will get better. It's just, they fired their offensive coordinator, so I think they're on a better path. But enough about the Cardinals. Chiefs, Rams. I would take, let's say the line's at 55. What would you take the over or under 55 total points scored?
I mean, that's really only 3 touchdowns each, which both teams are capable of. but I don't know. I mean, the Rams have not scored. I don't know. It's tough to say, dude.
On
I would
paper,
probably take the over, contradicting literally what I said like 30 seconds ago, but I don't know. Part of me just has this feeling that it's going to be a little bit tighter than that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, every time I expect a blowout or like a freaking barn burner from both teams, they come out and it'll be like 17-10. You know what I mean? Like it really disappoints me sometimes, even though the defenses are butt cheeks for teams that have crazy good offenses. They'll come out and it'll be so overhyped that the defenses are just going to get burned that all of a sudden both the offenses just don't even come to play. They don't even show up. So I wouldn't be shocked if this was the under. But if I was a betting man, I think I'd take the over just because I'm insane.
Yeah, but plus, both teams rely on their run game, and when you have the run game, it slows it down a little bit. Your time of possession's a little bit longer. Maybe they just don't get around to scoring over 55 points.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, actually, one thing in reference to Todd Gurley, I was looking at our fantasy matchups, and I got to tell you, the dude who has Todd Gurley in our league, guess who plays him on the week that he has a bye week? This guy. I couldn't be more thrilled. I looked forward to his bye week to see who they were playing, because essentially, I'm not saying it's an easy win, but taking away 35, 40 fantasy points from your team on a bye week, that's gonna make me feel a little bit better going up against him. So I don't have to deal with him right now, but if I'm lucky enough to run the table and make it to the playoffs, and I'll probably get knocked out by him. But at least I might be able to make it to the playoffs if I run a few wins off. Did you have a question? I think you said somebody submitted a question on your end.
Yep. Ryan from New Jersey asks, how long does Tom Brady have left?
Oh, geez. Oh, man. I feel like this question comes up every single year, or at least probably every single month. He's still playing at a decently high level. Definitely top 5 quarterback still in the league right now. So, dude, he could probably play till he's like, I don't know, 45. I don't know that I necessarily want to see it, and I hope by then the Patriots can come up with a backup plan without offending him, because they had Garoppolo on deck, and Garoppolo is a pretty good quarterback that has potential to be great. But they moved him just to get some value out of them, because they realized Tom Brady was going to stick around for a little bit longer, and he's pretty serviceable. I know you're probably pretty sick of him, right?
Yeah, after I don't know. After the 4th championship, I was just like, man, I can't take any more. And then, I don't know. I think you look at Tom Brady, and sometimes he looks like a tired old man who is probably ready to hang up the cleats. But then other days, he plays so clutch. No matter who he has on his team, he elevates them, and they manage to win.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be a happy day for me when Tom Brady announces his retirement, but I think he's still probably got 2 or 3 more years at the minimum.
Yeah, barring injury, which you wouldn't want to see him go out that way. But yeah, I think you're right, and at least probably 2 seasons if he's up for it. I mean, at some point he's got to go, but it's crazy how long his career's been and how I don't know. I guess you could say durable. He hasn't really been lit up, but. And he doesn't really – it's not like he's a mobile quarterback by any means. He just takes a couple steps back and chucks it. But he's definitely got some more tread on the tires, which is sad to say for everyone else in the league. And actually, the matchup this weekend is going to be pretty juicy for to me, it's the Super Bowl I've always wanted to see. It's Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. But every year I'll predict it, and every year I'm let down and disappointed. But someday I'd like to see that before he goes, which is in the next couple years, like we said. So I wouldn't mind watching that Super Bowl. I wouldn't mind watching him lose that Super Bowl, to be honest. So let's head over to our Facebook page. Kevin, he was mentioning the Thursday night football game. He's talking. He wants thoughts on Doug Martin, who I thought was actually a pretty decent pickup after they put Marshawn Lynch on bye for the Raiders. We're talking about for the Oakland Raiders. I wouldn't call him a workhorse, but he's a decent bye-week fill-in running back, I think, moving forward, and probably flex play as he gets in there. Jalen Richard is the other guy there that's going to be more of the pass-catching back, but I think Doug Martin's going to get at least I'd say at least 15 touches a game. Not that the Raiders are a high-powered offense or anything, but if you want my thoughts on Doug Martin, I think for a bye week fill-in at running back or even maybe a flex play depending on matchup, I think Doug Martin could be a decent pickup if he's available in your leagues, which he's not in ours, by the way. My wife, Kristen, picked him up.
Well, Doug Martin never really impressed me as a Buccaneer. I really don't expect him to impress on the Raiders either. We don't even really know what their offensive mantra seems to be. I mean, it's mostly just Derek Carr getting lit up and not getting people to catch the ball that he throws to them. So, I don't know. I guess Doug Martin could be a desperation flex play for those of you that didn't pay attention to all the dudes that you picked on bye week for the same week. But I certainly would not. I would take Jalen over him, actually, if you're trying to pick a Raiders,
especially in a PPR league.
That
PPR league, I would agree with that too. But I mean, I don't know. I think John Gruden's seen enough of the Bucs game. I know he used to coach there too, but he's seen enough of the muscle hamster, aka Doug Martin, play that I think he might assume that he's able to take on this load, and it probably just run him into the ground, to be honest. But I think he's a decent play moving forward, and he wants our thoughts on the Golden Tate trade. Kevin wants to know about Golden Tate, and that wasn't the only trade that went down. There were quite a few. Including, I think, Demaryius Thomas went to the Texans, but Golden Tate did get traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. In fantasy-wise, if you're an owner of Golden Tate, congrats on having 2 bye weeks for him. But I do think the bye week will help him get acclimated to the Eagles. And him with Carson Wentz on that team, they did just win a Super Bowl, even though they don't really look like it sometimes. Pairing him alongside Alshon Jeffrey, I think, is going to be a pretty awesome little tandem there.
Yeah, I think the Eagles needed kind of a pick-me-up on their offense. They have been losing some pretty disappointing games so far this season. I think that getting Golden Tate is definitely a boon for their team. I think it was Lynch who mentioned that he's one of the best yard after catch receivers in the league. I was really kind of hoping that the Eagles were going to pick up a running back.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Claymont and Smallwood are serviceable in their own right. We'll just have to see kind of how that offense adjusts to, having Golden Tate and not having Ajayi.
It's gonna be like the Andrew Luck does in for the Indianapolis Colts, and they're just gonna sling it 50 times a game with Carson Wentz, which for fantasy owners would be fantastic for them. But yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously a very good trade for the Eagles to get on. I think Golden Tate's an underrated player, and as a Kenny Golladay owner, this opens up a whole new world of possibilities. That's like double-digit targets from the Lions now being spread out across him and Marvin Jones Jr. So I'm big. I'm super high on Kenny Golladay right now after that trade. So feeling pretty good on both ends if you're an owner of Tate or pretty much anybody who was on the Lions in general. So that's a big boost for them. That's all we got in the mailbag right now. I think we can dive into Week 9 in the NFL. Let's run through these. We'll start off with the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Washington Redskins, who have been shockingly good on both sides of the ball. Good ball control on offense for the Redskins, and their defense is pretty. I don't think they've had a run over 20 yards all season. Their run defense is incredible. They're a surprising team that I didn't expect to be this good.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk at all about the Redskins at our preseason podcast episode. I actually picked the Redskins to win this game, and I mean, they got AP, who is really impressing, along with, I mean, Alex Smith is getting it done. The Falcons, I really viewed this game as kind of a toss-up, but I think that the Redskins, they're at home. They got a pretty good run going. They want to keep the divisional lead and continue to run away with it so that the Eagles, who I think have kind of favorable matchups going forward in the rest of the season, don't catch up with them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, the Falcons, I don't understand them really right now. I mean, they're 3-4. They're coming off a bye. They got to get their crap together. I mean, if they want to stand any chance against in that division, really, with the way the Panthers and the Saints are playing, if they want to if they want to make the playoffs, even as a wild card, they're going to have to pick it up the way. I mean, there's a lot of good teams going on right now, and they're really showing who they really are. The Falcons, on paper, are better than 3-4. They should be better than 3-4, but that's just where they're playing at right now. And honestly, the way the Redskins are playing, I don't think they're going to get a win in this game either. So, I mean, let's say they're sitting 3-5, going into Week 10. I don't know how they're going to be. It's pretty much run the table time at that point. You gotta get your crap together. So we'll see. I'm picking the Redskins for sure in that game.
And as a Ito Smith fan, or owner, I should say, I obviously want for them to get their run game together. But Tevin Coleman was never really a lead back. He was the change of pace guy to Devonta.
Yeah.
And, they got Calvin Ridley, who was really impressive earlier this season, but has kind of come back down to earth. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe after the bye week, they've made some adjustments with their game planning and their scheming. But
yeah,
I think the Redskins kind of got the full head of steam right now.
Yeah, I think we're both picking the Redskins in that one. That's for sure. Moving on, Detroit Lions taking on the Minnesota Vikings. These are two teams they're NFC North teams that are obviously going to be battling along with the Green Bay Packers and the Bears. This division's actually pretty
stacked.
Evenly stacked. Yeah, that's going to come down. I don't know who's going to wind up winning the division in that one, the way all of these teams are playing. And you'll see one team like the Vikings, even the Lions looked really good some weeks, and then they'll come out and throw pitch a dud. Like the Bears losing to the Dolphins a week or two ago. Just something you don't really expect, and you shouldn't. I mean, obviously Trubisky is going to be different, but I'm going to stop talking about Mitchell Trubisky because I think he's getting a lot more credit than I think he deserves. But we'll move. I don't know why I'm talking about the Bears. We're sitting here talking about the Lions and the Vikings. But if I'm taking a pick in this one, honestly, I'm going to pick the Lions in this one, I think. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why. Listen, I know that the Vikings are good. Kirk Cousins is slinging it all over the place. Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs are two elite wide receivers. I don't know what it is about the Lions right now. I know that they just got rid of Golden Tate, but they added some defensive help not just before the trade deadline passed. I really like the Lions. I think they're going to get their stuff together. Kerryon Johnson's actually they're leaning on him more. As a rookie, early on in the season, they were peppering him in, and he was showing flashes. I think they know what they have now, and they're going to lean on them more with the solid run game, taking a lot of pressure off of Matt Stafford, who is prone to make mistakes when he is given the ball too many times. He's a good quarterback, but if you want him to throw the ball 50 times a game, he's going to give you at least 3 picks. So I don't know. I'm thinking the Lions can maintain right here. The Vikings have been a little wishy-washy for me. I can't put my faith in them yet.
I picked the Vikings for this game. I just think that they have the better defense and the stronger backfield, especially without Golden Tate facing them now. I don't really view it as an addition by subtraction type of deal for the Lions. I think that they kind of realized that they didn't want to pay that giant contract, but are kind of taking the hit for that. So I think the Vikings will probably win this and plunge the Lions into where they should be at the end of the division.
Yeah, well, no, I know. The Vikings, especially at home, they're going to show up, obviously play. I wouldn't be shocked if they won. I just got this weird feeling about the Lions, and honestly, I'm super high on Kenny Galladay, and maybe it's a little biased because I have him on my fantasy team. But I do think that is a huge factor in their reasoning for trading Golden Tate. Was they were very confident in Kenny Galladay to be not necessarily. I'm not going to say Calvin Johnson, but. The dude's a freaking beast. I mean, I think they're going to pepper him with quite a bit of targets, and I think he has the talent to give you Calvin Johnson light.
I won't stop you from picking the Lions. I got to catch up in the pick'em competition. So go ahead.
Okay, so we're split on that. Let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know why every single week I keep not picking the Steelers, and like you said, you went back to the preseason podcast. I said the Steelers would be last in their division. But I'm high on the Ravens, though, and I'm definitely going to pick the Ravens in this one. I think their defense is coming together, too, at the right time. If Alex Collins can stop fumbling the ball, I think they got a legit shot obviously the playoffs, but maybe even a little farther than that.
Well, they traded for, Rams' best running back, Ty Montgomery.
Yes.
So, I picked the Steelers for this game. I don't think that Baltimore beats Pittsburgh twice this season. And, dude, I think James Conner just continues to chug along.
My biggest regret in this fantasy football season is early before the season even started, or maybe even after week 1, it was before the season started. I picked up Alfred Morris when that whole thing was going on. They signed him, and who was it? Why am I blanking? Jerick McKinnon, the big signing for the 49ers.
Yeah.
He got hurt, and I was like, man, Alfred Morris, man, I picked him up. I'm so psyched. He's going to be the workhorse there for the 49ers. And then the James Conner thing popped up, and Le'Veon Bell, that whole situation. And I remember looking at James Conner as a free agent, and I was looking at him, and I was like, but Alfred Morris, though, man, I just picked him up. I'm super excited about Alfred Morris. Wow, I freaking blew it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm imagining if I have him in my other leagues that I'm in. I have him on all my other teams, which is only 2. But I have him on those teams. I pulled the trigger on that, but for some reason I didn't in this league. And I let Lynch pick him up, who's also the Le'Veon Bell owner. And I think I even texted him, was like, he was upset with what was going on with Le'Veon Bell. And I was like, why don't you just pick Connor up? I don't even know what I was thinking. I should have just scooped him and just did a wait-and-see approach. Because even after week 1, he flashed, man. He was on the board. And my biggest regret of this season is not picking up James Conner.
He missed the scoop and score.
No, it would have been a no-brainer for me, especially early on in the season. I was hurting at running back. But a couple trades here and there, and by a couple, I mean literally, I'm pretty sure I've been involved in 90% of the trades in our league. But I'm back to a serviceable corner here. But so you're picking the Steelers. I'm taking the Ravens. Is that how we are on this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? I really hope that the Ravens tank the rest of the season so we can see Lamar Jackson before the end of 2018.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Ravens, to me, are still a pretty good football team. I don't know if you're going to get that yet unless there's an injury, but they are making a concerted effort to put him on the field in some sort of packages that are built just for him. I wish they'd let him throw the ball more, but they don't. They just bring him in, and it's usually 9 times out of 10 some sort of like gadget run play that no one really wants to see. But I'd love to see him drop back.
He's got such a nice touch.
Yes.
He might be the best quarterback of the draft.
He could be. We won't know that until then. But speaking of quarterbacks in the draft, we're going to move on to Kansas City Chiefs going to Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield. You're telling me Lamar Jackson might be better than Baker May?
In college, he wasn't. His accuracy was significantly worse than Baker Mayfield's. I just really liked Lamar's game tape, but I like what Baker's doing for the Browns, and they're going with the full Chubb.
Yeah.
Now that they got rid of Hyde, but they did just fire their coach and offensive coordinator. Yes. So.
The entire city of Cleveland did it like a cleaning house on their coaching staff. Tyronn Lue got fired because LeBron wasn't there to prop him up anymore in the NBA world, and the Browns finally were like, Hugh Jackson. Obviously it was better late than never, but my goodness, they should have done that. I don't know, 5 years ago. But
before they even hired him.
Yeah, no, for real. It is exciting times in Cleveland right now. It's kind of a fresh slate. They got a couple teams rebuilding, and the Cleveland Browns are on the upswing. I believe, and they got a lot of good young players to build around. However, in this game, I do not see them winning. Let's be honest. The Kansas City Chiefs are far and above the much better team. If they pull out a win here, holy crap, that'd be like winning the Super Bowl for the Browns, I think, at this point.
Yeah, that would be a really, really insane trap game. Yeah, I think the Chiefs are probably going to wreck the Browns.
Yeah, I don't think we have to spend too much time on this one. We're both I think the consensus across the board will be Kansas City Chiefs on this one. Moving on, your New York Jets taking on the Miami Dolphins in Miami. The Miami Dolphins are an enigma every single week. You never know what you're going to get. And if Brock Osweiler's playing, you really don't know what you're going to get because it's freaking Brock Lobster, man. He's insane. What do you think you're going to see out of this game? Do you think the Jets are going to win in Miami?
I picked the Jets to win Brock Osweiler has looked really good these last few games. I agree that the Dolphins have been hot and cold, though their record, shows that they've been winning games that they're 4-4, they're 500. The Jets are 3-5. They could just as easily flip it and win down in Miami, but the Jets are depleted. Some of their defensive players may be coming back this week, but I just have this feeling. Usually we split with the Dolphins. It's not often that we lose both games to them.
Yeah.
So I pick the Jets. The Jets are going to kind of bounce back from the last few games that they've had, and come out and score some points. I don't think the Dolphins' defense is very special.
I don't know why I'm streaming defenses in fantasy, and I wound up playing the Oakland Raiders tonight, which, by the way, we're recording this, full disclosure, we're recording this podcast during the Thursday Night Football game. So we will talk about the Thursday Night Football game, but towards the end of this podcast, we'll hit our thoughts on it. But I actually considered picking up the New York Jets for this game because I had this weird feeling that the Dolphins are just going to just tank it. However, when it came down to pick 'em, I wound up picking the Dolphins, and I can't for the life of me explain why. They're just a weird team. And in Miami, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and think that they're gonna come away with enough explosive plays to take down your Jets. Man, I'm sorry I did it.
Last year, I was actually at the game in Miami, and it was the super depressing game where we lost because Jay Ajayi returned a punt for a touchdown or something insane like that.
Oh my gosh.
Like in the last minute of the game.
Yeah.
But yeah. I want the Jets to win. I think they have a chance to win. This is certainly a toss-up game.
For sure.
So I'm picking the Jets. I'm doing the homer thing. I'm picking the Jets.
I don't even think it's that big of a homer pick. I mean, like you said, you could flip a coin on this one, I think, with the way these teams have been playing. They've been some games they're on, some games they're off, and who knows how it's going to go. But I'm picking the Dolphins. Just I couldn't explain it why. I just think there's something weird about this Dolphins team. Chicago Bears taking on the Buffalo Bills. I don't think we need to spend much time on this one. I'm pretty sure Nathan Peterman's going to get the start again. The freaking worst quarterback I've ever seen play in the entire NFL is going to get another shot at it again.
He's going to light it up.
Against the Bears? Please tell me. Please.
Khalil Mack's going to feel so bad for him.
Please tell me.
He's going to let him throw 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, Khalil Mack had better play in this game. If he doesn't, it's going to be him running through the line and literally just picking the dude up and taking the ball from him. You know what I mean? It's going to be like, excuse me, can I borrow this? And he's going to waltz into the end zone.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Let me take this from you real quick.
Well, you know what's funny is the last time we thought this with the Bills, we're like, the Bills are going to get absolutely smashed. And then they took out the Minnesota Vikings. So they could come to play when they're this big of an underdog. But let's be honest, at this point, I can't give the benefit of the doubt to Nathan Peterman ever. I'm not even kidding with you. He's the worst quarterback I've ever seen play at any level of sports. I've seen high school quarterbacks better than him, which is sad to say. Well, I mean,
you can't pick against the Bears. Not right now. They're on a good streak.
Not with Nate Pete at quarterback. Moving on, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Fitzmagic is back. And unfortunately, it's in Carolina against a pretty decent defense and a pretty decent team in general. They're taking on the Panthers. How are you seeing this one go? Obviously, the Buccaneers, to me, are a much more inspired football team with Ryan Fitzpatrick at the helm. I think they're infinitely more fun to watch, and they're hitting on all cylinders. I think they're just overall having much more fun playing with Fitzpatrick. I don't think they're going to get the win, though. I do think the Panthers are the better football team overall, and I'm not going to Fitzmagic can't make me overcome that, not at this point in the season.
You are right. The Panthers are the better football team, but it sounds like you don't believe in Fitzmagic.
Magic's not real.
I've seen this. This is the part of the Fitzmagic cycle. This is when he makes the incredible back end, effort as a quarterback and gets signed by the Buccaneers. A nice 2 or 3 year deal. Next year, he plays like an average quarterback.
That's right.
This year, Fitzmagic, he's going to Carolina, and he's going to beat the Panthers this week.
Wow. All right. Listen, either way, again, I mean, I can't discount the Magic, but I also can't I can't go against my better judgment. And to me, the Carolina Panthers are the better team, especially at home. I'm picking the better team if they're playing at home. But I am excited to see Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I'm ready to see some fantasy production from this offense again. Jameis Winston's game last week was less than stellar, we should say.
Oh, what was the stat that I sent you? He had 70-something turnovers in 50 games or something disgusting like that.
Yeah, it's been pretty disturbing. I think almost every game, at least this season, he's had at least 1 or 2 turnovers. But I don't know how you explain it. They're in a real tough spot with him. To me, you should have traded him at the trade deadline to literally any sucker who was willing to take him for like a third round pick maybe. But we'll see how it goes. He's still under contract, so I mean maybe something will shake out in the offseason. Moving on, I'm going to say the San Diego Chargers. No, the Los Angeles Chargers are taking on the Seattle Seahawks. In Seattle, Seahawks are kind of on a little upswing here. However, the Chargers, I don't know. These are both two right now as it stands. Early in the season, it wasn't the case, but right now these two are kind of playing on a decent level. I think it's going to be a pretty good game. Who did I wind up picking though? I don't know. It was on a win. I picked the Chargers. Lightning bolts to me are cooler than a Seahawk, I think is what my reasoning was on this one.
Man, we're on opposites on pretty much all the games here. Holy smokes.
You picking the Hawks?
I took the Seahawks at home. I think that the Seahawks, they got David Moore who's coming into his own. They got Baldwin back.
Chris Carson is getting the workhorse back role. And of course, as soon as I say that, it'll be Mike Davis and then it'll be Rashad Penny and you won't even know about it to me. But right now, as it seems, if you're a Chris Carson owner, which, by the way, I may be trying to get him in a trade in our fantasy league, but don't tell the guy who owns him. But anyway, no, I'm actually high on Chris Carson. And if you can actually pick him up in fantasy football, right now he is, to me, the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm pretty sure to a lot of people playing fantasy football, the Seattle Seahawks have this like aura around them. And if you see Seattle running back, you kind of scoff and you're like, no, thanks. I don't want any part of that. And Pete Carroll's a douche. I don't want to deal with that right now. That's where you can kind of spin that, buy low on Chris Carson because his playoff schedule is legit. Like he's got probably, I think, one of the easiest, if not the easiest playoff schedule for a running back as far as 14, 15, 16 weeks. You should kind of keep an eye out for him. If you can get him on the cheap, I'd be down to slide into some Chris Carson. I am actually actively trying to pick him up. So, and I say that now, but next week it'll be Rashad Penny. But I'm telling you, as it stands today, I'm a big fan of Chris Carson. And I say all of this, and then I flip my pick and say I'm going to pick the Los Angeles Chargers in this one.
I mean, the Chargers, they're good and they're competitive this season. I picked them to go to the playoffs at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I just think at home, with their full strength offense, I think the Seahawks come out on top.
All right. It's very possible. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm picking the Chargers. That's just how I'm doing it. We are splitting a lot on these. Let's see if we split on this one.
This week is really a bunch of toss-ups.
It really is. It's tough.
It's maddening.
We've had like three straight weeks of like cakewalks. Like somebody got went 13-1 last week. Vince went 13-1. I was like, you're kidding me, right? Houston Texans taking on the Denver Broncos. In Denver, we're talking Mile High Stadium. The atmosphere up there is going to be super thin. No one will be able to breathe.
Except for Demaryius Thomas, who's already ready for that.
Yeah. Oh, my God. You know what? Is he going to play right? Oh, my. He will, right? I'm pretty sure he will.
You got to figure.
The revenge game happens immediately if he suits up for this one. He's now suited up for the Houston Texans alongside DeAndre Hopkins. Pretty solid little tandem there. And if Kiki QT comes back and plays, that's a pretty solid wide receiving core there. Who do you got in this one, though?
I took the Texans.
Okay, see, I agree with you there. I also took the Texans because I think their offense. Lamar Miller, I've been crapping on him for quite a while because he's just been an average, bland, like just plain grits running back. He's been kind of decent recently. These last few weeks, he's been showing up, and as long as they can keep that run game established with those wide receivers, they definitely have a chance.
Yeah, you see, Will Fuller went down for the Texans for the rest of the season, and you definitely figured that hurt them a lot. But they went out and grabbed Demaryius at the trade deadline. I don't think that they lose a step on offense, and the Broncos, I think, have been doing well lately, but I think the Texans are just I think they're the better football team.
Well, yeah, the
this
Broncos
week.
have been doing well because they had just recently played the Arizona Cardinals, and coming off an Arizona Cardinal, that kind of skews your judgment. But I do think the Houston Texans are the better team. I think we're in consensus here that we're picking the Texans in Denver to beat the Broncos. Moving on, possibly, I would say game of the week, but the next one after this one, to me, is the game of the week, maybe even of the year. But the Rams versus Saints. Los Angeles Rams versus the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. Man, I'm excited to see this one. The Rams are undefeated. The Packers had a chance to win last week if it wasn't for a Ty Montgomery fumble, you son of a bitch. But wait, have you ever seen somebody's career? I felt bad for the guy. I legit felt bad until he doubled down and was like, listen, man, I had to run. I had a lane. I had a ball that was able to be running back. And a lot of people in the locker room were kind of crapping on him because he was talking about how, like, I don't know, there's a disconnect between him and the players. They thought he thought him getting kind of pushed out of the running back rotation on the offense, that was part of the reason why he decided to make that choice and keep the Rams record undefeated. But anyway, I'm not bitter at all. But the Rams are still undefeated. They go to New Orleans to take on a red-hot Saints team. Who do you got in this one? What do you see happening?
This was probably the hardest game to pick. If there's any NFC team that's going to be able to beat the Rams, it definitely is the Saints. I honestly think that the Saints offense is better than the Rams offense, but the Saints have no defense.
Yeah.
I picked the Rams because until they lose a game, I'm not going to pick anybody else.
That is also my reasoning too. It's the same reasoning. I'm just going to keep picking Rams. They've shown pretty much they can beat anybody in the league. Obviously, they're 8-0. This is my same reasoning as well. Until they show me otherwise, until I see an L on their record, I won't doubt them. Even though I do really, really like the Saints. And like you said, they're very capable of taking them down, especially in the Superdome down there. But I'm going to pick the Rams. I think a lot of people will pick the Rams. They're not, unless they're betting against the conventional wisdom. You want to be contrarian. Everyone's going to pick the Rams, I think, at this point. But that's going to be, to me, the second best game of the week, which is crazy because it's 8-0 team taking on a 6-1 Saints team. Going to be a lot of offense in that game, I think. But moving on, to me as a Packers fan, it's Sunday Night Football. You're going to get Green Bay Packers going to New England to take on the Patriots. It's Brady versus Rodgers. We don't get this enough, if you ask me. It happens just every few years you get it. I think it's only happened just a handful of times, and I want more of it. I want more of it. I'd love to see it in a Super Bowl, but to me this is going to be the game of the week, and I'm picking the New England Patriots because as a Packers fan, when we face a good team, my thought process is pick the good team, and if you beat them, be pleasantly surprised.
My God. See, I picked the Patriots at first.
Uh-oh.
But I'm actually taking Green Bay.
Woo, I love it. I love it.
And that's not the Jets fan in me. I think that now that Ty Montgomery is out of the picture, that Aaron Jones actually does get his chance to shine.
Yes, and against the Patriots, their run defense is butt cheeks. I would love to see if Aaron Jones can get 15 to 20 carries. We're talking like 100, 150 yards and maybe 2 touchdowns.
That's what I'm saying. And I mean, they just got Geronimo Allison and Devontae Parker back. Even if they're in a limited capacity, I really do think that the Packers can go up there and take a win from the Patriots. And it's not often that I bet against the Pats, but I have this good feeling that the Packers are going to win this weekend.
I like that. I wish I had that feeling. I would love to see it. I think the Packers, obviously Aaron Rodgers in any game has the ability to win it. And Ty Montgomery's gone, so who knows what could happen in this game. But no, I mean, I'm going to pick the Patriots, especially in New England. They're kind of clicking right now. If Sony Michel plays, he's gonna feast on that Packers D, I think. But if the Packers win, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised, and I will gladly take the L in the pick'em, in lieu of my favorite team winning against a very good football team. So you're picking the Packers. We don't agree on this, but in my head we agree. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's tough.
Yeah. I understand. I understand your hesitation.
Yeah.
But you will be very pleased at 11 p.m. on Sunday night if you're awake by that point.
I'm going to be awake. I'm going to watch this game thoroughly, even if we're getting blown out. I love to be tortured. Moving on to the Monday Night Football game, which is also probably going to be torture. Tennessee Titans taking on the Dallas Cowboys as a non-Dallas Cowboy fans. You either like the Cowboys or you hate the Cowboys. To me, I don't think a lot of people tolerate the Cowboys. Their games are to me they're watchable based off of who their opponent is. Tennessee Titans are not a watchable team. So this game I will be snooze fest. Actually, you know what? I'll be on a cruise. So I won't even be I think it'll be on TV on the cruise, but I'm not going to go out of my way on the cruise ship to get my ice cream cone and go to the buffet and then check out this game. I won't be watching it. I'm sorry.
It's probably for the best. I mean, the Titans are just not really impressive, and the Cowboys made the brilliant decision to get Amari Cooper for a first round when they could have gotten Golden Tate for a third?
I think so, yeah.
Or Demaryius Thomas for a fifth.
Ridiculous,
so
yeah.
Despite all that, though, I actually picked the Cowboys to win. The Titans are like, meh. Marcus Mariota has not played the same way that Jameis Winston has, but he's been just as disappointing, I think, franchise-wise. And the Titans don't have anybody that impresses me. Not a single player.
Yeah, I agree. Marcus Mariota should be better than what he is. That whole team in general is just full of underperformers. I don't think this is going to be much of a game. I do think the Cowboys are the better football team, even though it pains me to say it. But I think the Cowboys walk away with this one, and I don't even think it's close. I really don't. I think if the Cowboys score more than 10 points, I think they win by 10. You know what I mean? That's how bad this game's going to be.
The Titans have just. They have played a disappointing season. I don't even think. Okay, so they scored 26 points against the Texans or against the Eagles, who they managed to somehow beat in overtime. But other than that, they haven't scored over 20 points. They've not had more than 2 touchdowns in any of their other games.
Yeah, the Titans they got a couple decent wins under their belt. They should be happy that they have 3, and they're not going to end their season defeated. So 3 wins to me at this point in the season, pretty good for them. They might sneak a few more away, but they're not a very good football team. I don't know. That's just how it is for them this season.
Oh, they play the Jets.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, the Jets might get a win.
Yay!
Again this season later.
Awesome. Yeah, Darnold's got to get those wins up, so that'll help. Well, that'll wrap up. I think that definitely wraps up Week 9. Well, and actually, you know what? We got to go back and we got to hit this Thursday night game. As it stands right now, the 49ers are up 14-3, which pains me because I did pick the Oakland Raiders in this game.
Same.
The dude, who's the guy starting for the 49ers right now? Nick Mullins. Whenever I saw that name, I thought that was a basketball player. I was like, wait a minute, that dude plays in the NBA. But no, I mean, Nick Mullins, as it stands right now, 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. It looks like the 49ers at home are probably going to take down the Raiders. The Raiders are so bad. They're in a horrible shape right now.
But they have 3 first-round draft picks.
Yes, you're right. They're ready. They're certainly ready for the offseason.
Dude, the Raiders, the Raiders are probably the worst team in the NFL. Do you think the Cardinals are worse than the Raiders or the Giants?
The Cardinals are on the upswing. They have Larry Fitzgerald. They have David Johnson, and they have a young quarterback that they've already used decent capital on that could potentially figure it out and be good at the end of the year. I think by the end of the year, the Raiders are the dumpsterest of fires, and they could very easily be the worst team in the league right now. I think that's not a stretch to say.
I think the Bills are better than the Raiders. I think the Jets are better than the Raiders.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the Browns are better than the Raiders, even though they beat the Browns.
Yeah, that's what happens when you trade Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper and just basically write off your season. I think at this point, I mean they're in tank mode.
The Giants versus the Raiders would be a good dumpster fire game to watch.
Yeah, but the Giants, again, like I say, other than Eli Manning, if you put a halfway competent quarterback, not that Eli Manning isn't competent, I just think he's lacking his zip. The dude doesn't have it anymore. He doesn't have any pizzazz. If you had anybody in there with like half a ounce of pizzazz, honestly, Geno Smith would probably be a better quarterback right now for the Giants. But they have Odell Beckham. They have Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, obviously Saquon Barkley. They have a lot of really good players. They're not a bad football team. They're just a poorly run football team right now. They have good players. The pieces are there. But anyway, yeah, the Raiders are butt cheeks, and I think that will be a consistent trend that you'll see throughout the rest of the season. But that'll wrap up Week 9. That's definitely the Week 9 preview for you right now. We'll be moving on forward. I think next week I'm going to be hitting a cruise, so there may be a little lull. JJ, I know you want to. I'm showing you the groundwork here, but you might have a little solo podcast going up next week. We'll see what's going down. But for all you chunkers out there, I will be off the grid. I'm going to Cuba, so wish me luck. Fingers crossed. I'll make it back. And I don't know. I've been hearing some weird things. There's this thing that's going on where you have to, like, when you talk to people, you have to, like, log their name and, like, what your business was with them. It's like there's a lot of, like, loopholes you got to go through to go on a cruise to Cuba. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, I hope you make it back because the podcast would not be the same without you.
Well, I appreciate it. No, I'll make it back somehow if I have to float over on a raft. I'll find a way. I'll go full Elian Gonzalez, and I'll make it back over here if I have to do it that way. But either way, we'll be back sometime next week with a fresh podcast. Keep an eye on the website, thechunkpod.com. Share it with friends. Do anything you can to get us some followers up here. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to get our content out there, and we want other chunkers. A chunker. The more chunkers we have, the heavier chunk that we can create. You know what I'm saying? We want a heavy wad of chunkage.
You got to chunk together to make the biggest chunk that we can.
And as you say at the end of the podcast, chunk it up, right? Isn't that what we're doing here? We're just trying to chunk it up.
And going forward, just to kind of give a preview to everybody, we're trying to get together in the month of November, hopefully, for this Meet the Chunk.
Damn it! Listen,
episode.
Trying is definitely the key word here, but we absolutely will get the interview series of the Chunk podcast up and running, starting with the Meet the Chunkers, because some people are listening to this right now going, "Who the hell are these people, and why do I care?" And I don't know, maybe this will help. If you want to get a little background story of us, what we do, what we stand for, and I have a lot of weird questions that I'm ready to ask everybody. It's literally going to be the Wild Wild West on the podcast. All the chunkers in one pod, and I'm going to be pulling like literally questions out of a hat as we go round table, and it's going to get weird. I'm telling you, it's going to get kind of weird. So I am really looking forward to that podcast, and obviously the more gaming, more entertainment, a lot of movies coming out in the coming months. We're going to be hitting some reviews, and honestly, we may be going back in time and doing some old school movie reviews as well, some quick podcasts about some old classics. So yeah, there's a lot planned ahead for the Chunk, especially in the podcast department. So follow us on anywhere you can. It's at the Chunk Pod on Instagram. Find us on Facebook. Give us a like. Follow us wherever you can. And we have a YouTube channel, too. So if you want to absorb our content via video without actually moving anything, you can check us out on YouTube, too. So thanks for listening to the Week 9 preview, and we look forward to, being back in your ear holes next week. So thanks for being on, JJ. We'll hit you guys up later.
Peace out, everybody.
See ya.